The podcast where we continue our exploration of Vampire the Masquerade. Tonight we gather around the table to answer the question, what would you do for family?
Nothing. Do everything for family.
For family, it's the most important thing in life. Today is a weird one. This is our coverage of the last of the 13 clans, and there's going to be there's complication here.
Uh-oh. What's the complication?
So, the complication is we are going to discuss 3 clans all at the same time.
Oh, okay. This won't get confusing at all.
No, not at all. And we're going to go chronologically in order, so that will make sense. And we are going to dive into the history of the Hacata.
Okay.
So first, a little quote we got here. We will weather the fires of the Second Inquisition. We will come together as the last truly independent clan because we must. The feast, the promise, the reunion, death, rot, and rebirth. The 3 faces. We survived, and now we become what we always were. The Hacata, the clan of death.
Ooh, ominous.
So before we can talk about the Hacata, we have to talk about Cappadocius. Cappadocius was sired in the First City, chosen for his intellect and his interest in matters surrounding death. As a clan founder of Cappadocians, some of whom would later be known as the Harbingers of Skulls, he was always a mystic and a dreamer, leading both to the grandiosity of his plans and the depths of his mistakes. So most people assume that Cappadocius is an epithet for his point of origin, the Anatolia region of Turkey, Cappadocian Mountains, rather than a personal name. Whenever he was asked about his origins, he would only say that he was from Cappadocia. Okay? I get it, because it's like, okay, it's like, it's the Sicilian. So, hey, how'd you get that name?
Because I'm from Sicily. Because I'm from Greece.
Because I like Sicilian-style pizza. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Actually, turns out I'm from Mexico City. Okay.
You're a pale white guy with blonde hair. Yeah, it's crazy how that works.
We talk about how that works. The names of most of the third generations are lost to history, but Cappadocius' name is unknown even to his contemporaries. To hear Cappadocian scholars tell it, the priest who had become Cappadocius chose to abandon his original name and take this one even before his embrace. And this is the only name he offered to Cain in the second generation.
So he's like Prince.
Probably.
It's like, this is my name now.
Oh, yeah. He's like a prince. Gotcha.
Yeah. Some
even say that Cappadocius goes by no true name himself because he himself no longer knows him. A symbol to C with a skull in it.
Artist formerly known as Cappadocius.
The artist formerly known as the symbol that is formerly known as Cappadocius. In his days as a mortal priest and a man of faith, Cappadocius had his own dealings with the dead, a conversation here or there with spirits of those gone, and he had made several enemies in his time. When the antediluvian died briefly during the embrace, those spirits were waiting for him in the lands of beneath, and they attempted to cling to him to prevent him from returning to his body when the curse of Cain took hold. It is said that to some extent they succeeded.
Oh, like ripped the pieces out.
Yeah. Part of Cappadocius never returned from the underworld. Much of his knowledge and self-awareness were lost in that faulty embrace, and the being who returned was not quite who he began the journey. Part of Cappadocius never returned from the underworld. Much of his knowledge and self-awareness were lost in that faulty embrace, and the being who returned was not quite he who began the journey. Cappadocius's very soul had been fragmented, and that is why he harbored such a fascination for the dead. Even when he himself did not realize it, he was constantly seeking the missing portions of himself. His progeny speculated that this flawed embrace is also the reason for Cappadocius's deathly appearance, because the spirit that returned to his body was incomplete. It was unable to fully stave off the decay of the grave. It may be also the reason that Augustus Giovanni could not devour his soul completely, as a part of it has always been in the underworld. In any event, Cappadocius spent most of his time in the Second City seeking answers to various and sundry questions of the nature of life and death, studying ways to question the spirits, and in his spare time advising the other Cainites on any matter with which they chose to query him. Cappadocius was unusually active for an antediluvian. He embraced Christianity, although with his own particular twist, and was actively working with his childhood until his final death. It was to his own undoing to order the embrace of Augustus Giovanni, bringing the Giovanni in as a bloodline for the Cappadocians. and blissfully ignoring all the evidence that his newest childer was making a beeline for his throat. Although it's very likely that he knew it from the start.
Yeah.
Thus, on April 4th, 1444, Cappadocius was willingly diablerized by his childer, Augustus Giovanni.
Just stood there.
Do you know that it is 441444? You know that the Japanese, like in their language, for
death.
Well, it's basically like if you say it with an inflection, it is death.
Mm-hmm.
So they have like a superstition where you don't use for a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes like hospitals and stuff won't have a fourth floor.
Kind of like how a lot of buildings don't have 13.
Exactly. I wonder if someone knowing that wrote, because we were diablerized on 441444. Yeah, it's weird. Pretty close. That was not the end of the ancient, however, for Augustus Giovanni did not manage to absorb his soul during the diablerie.
Mm-hmm.
Sometime later, information was brought to the Giovanni's attention by the Capuchin.
Okay. We just took a couple letters out.
No, actually, the Capuchin monks are a group of monks in Catholicism. It's like basically a origin of a sect, the Capuchin monks. However, the Capuchin is a vampire who masquerades as a Capuchin monk. Apparently, he exists in a lot of different stories, and he's like this strange figure who shows up and whispers stuff into Giovanni's ears. Yeah, it's weird. You thought the Setites and the Setites and the La Sombra would start bringing up like Catholicism into vampires. Oh no, let's take the whole like clan that took over Italy and see if any shows up. It is believed to hold a small amount of... Anyway, so information was brought to Giovanni's attention by the Capuchin. It is believed to hold a small amount of Cappadocius's blood and soul sealed by Japheth and Constantia, his childer. The Capuchin also told him that it had been hidden in the Civi's library but was lost when Claudius Giovanni ordered the burning of the temple fortress. Also in 1999, he haunted the Giovanni of Boston with specter servants. It is said that as an unfettered specter, he seeks revenge against both the Giovanni for their attempt at diablerie and the Ventru for instigating the plot that led to his death, and that he would not object to mindless violence.
Come on. Another person giving Ventru a bad name.
In Giovanni Chronicles 4, Nueve Malatia, the children of Isaac try to put him to rest with a ritual from Mariana, and it succeeds. So, that is the history of the Cappadocians, sort of, because now we then go into the history of the Giovanni, and you'll kind of see why. The Giovanni started as merchants under the name of Ivanius, later anglicized as the Jovians in the Roman Empire. During this time, the family first attempted to call back the dead in what they called... Oh no, we are not saying that word. Yeah, okay. As business with the dead was not yet stigmatized.
Just skip it.
And answered worship. No, someone I think used the base term Niger and tried to mix it with necromancy and came up with a word that will never be pronounced or attempted to be pronounced. Is that just...
I'm imagining, and yeah, it doesn't sound good in my head either.
No. Wow. When Rome fell, the Jovians maintained the independence of their home in Venice and furthered their own research of what would eventually develop into new paths of necromancy, primarily the sepulchral path. By the dawn of the 13th century, the Jovian family name had again shifted linguistically, this time to Giovanni, spelled with one N.
That's important.
The family name would come to adopt the more familiar Giovanni spelling around or before the 15th century with two N's, because yes, we have to be very particular about that.
It's tradition.
In 1005, in the hollows of Urses, under the shadow of Cappadocius's torpid form, Augustus was brought into the clan Cappadocian, directly embraced with the blood of the founder and under the watch of Japheth and Constantia. While the embrace is relatively well known, what is not well known is the horse trading before it.
No.
The clan of death, the Cappadocians, followed by their founder in a quest to understand the mysteries of death and God, including Cappadocius' plan to diablerize the Almighty.
Okay.
However, lacking knowledge about the soul, the Cappadocians' use of necromancy forced more on the act of dying than the events afterwards. The founders began to shop around for experts. Enter the Giovanni, the young.
Makes sense.
a family of prosperous Venetian traders who had for centuries depended on the necromantic skills to provide a business edge. Interested in expanding his family's power and seeing vampirism as the route to doing so, Augustus Giovanni began studying the clans and entertaining offers from various vampiric elders for the embrace. The Cappadocian offer was the most attractive, providing the lowest generation as well as the most manipulable clan. Yeah. As a result, and despite the protest of the Cappadocious elder child, the antediluvian rose from torpor and provided Japheth with a small vial of his blood. Japheth reluctantly did so, draining Augustus and pouring most of the Cappadocious donated blood into the throat of the drained Giovanni. The remainder was hidden by Japheth, the true vessel becoming a major element in the Giovanni rumor. Mm-hmm. Following his ascent into the blood, Augustus Giovanni immediately began embracing his own family. In the course of doing so, the Giovanni became something between a bloodline and a cult within the Cappadocian clan. Acknowledged as experts on necromancy and rapidly expanding the field, the Giovanni maintained themselves slightly separate from the mother clan. This, as the Giovanni claim, is because Augustus had planned to usurp his sire from before he was even embraced.
Guy knew what he wanted to do, and he did it.
Yeah. In 1444, these plans came to fruition. Augustus Giovanni's childer, Claudius Giovanni, formed a conspiracy to diablerize Japheth, and the most beloved of Cappadocius' childer. The conspiracy of Isaac was a criminal force in itself, but ultimately a distraction, since Hartstead and other founders of the Camarilla had turned their eye towards the diablerie of elder vampires. Augustus wanted a cat's paw, an obvious plan to distract them while he went after the greater prize. In 1444, both plans were completed, with Japheth and Cappadocius dead, and both leading Giovanni lowered a generation. The betrayal of Cappadocius and his childer was later called the Bite among Giovanni family members. Taking advantage of the chaos of the era, Augustus began a purge of the Cappadocians that, while taking centuries to wipe out the stragglers, would be sufficiently successful that by 1528 he could negotiate a peace with the Camarilla, also known as the Promise of 1528. The Giovanni were left alone, and left the Camarilla alone exactly as the Giovanni wanted it. The ultimate goal of the clan was outlined by Augustus Giovanni after reviewing Cappadocius' original plan.
I want to eat God.
Clan Giovanni acquired the bulk of its power by the hold it maintained over wraiths. So by tearing down the shroud, the clan of death would be able to increase its power beyond conception.
Ooh, I bet you the werewolves were kind of like, well, fuck these guys.
You want a what? Giovanni outlined plans to do so, with the most difficult goal being the acquisition of vast numbers of souls to enact the necromantic rituals necessary. From 1528 onwards, the Giovanni were basically left alone to pursue their goals. By opting out from the increasingly hot Camarilla Sabbat war, their resources were devoted to three goals: increasing necromantic knowledge, acquiring additional financial clout, and eliminating the remaining Cappadocians and Lamia. Each of these goals tied back to their eventual plan to tear down the shroud, necromantic knowledge to acquire the souls, finance to increase the soul supply by buying slaves, and engineering economic disasters, and eliminating Cappadocians to keep the only possible supplies tightly shut.
So we need money. We're going to use that money to buy slaves. We're going to kill. And then we're also going to use money to cause disasters to happen so people die. And then we're going to hunt down the only people that can say we're doing it.
I think it's so great that when you start at the venture and you work your way all the way through the clans, by the time you get to the venture who altruistically think they should be in charge, you're like, yeah, you guys are good. Okay, you're the good guys.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far. I'd be like, you guys are not as bad as some of the other people.
At least your flaw leads to you just taking over the role, right? Like, not just like, we're going to engineer the death.
They're just pretty much dickheads. But, you know, these guys are actively trying to destroy stuff. It's like, at least the Setites are like, I'm going to help you destroy something, but you're going to have fun doing it for a while. And these guys are just like, no, nobody's going to know. We're just going to fuck everybody.
I wonder if, like, the Setites every once in a while try to slip in a piece of, like, faulty necromantic lore just to watch something blow up.
For 100 years, we've been collecting souls, and they're just like, yeah, I slipped a rabbit soul in there. It's going to fuck the whole thing out.
Go right. So one horrible night just screaming from the cliffs of Italy. Like, oh, what did we burn? So, Victorian Age. The Giovanni used the Age of Discovery and colonialism to gain foothold within new states, like the United States, through their mortal merchant relatives. As trade got more and more important for wealth and influence of the nation, many Giovanni were able to accumulate large financial reserves for themselves. It was during this time that the Giovanni, despite being reviled as incestuous grave robbers, proved themselves to be one of the most influential kindred clans within mortal society, and often this gave them the upper edge in kindred politics. The Giovanni managed to control nearly every Camarilla and Sabbat city in Italy with their vast financial resources and their wraith servants, except for the Vatican and Malta, as both are claimed by other powerful forces. Many, especially young Giovanni, traveled in other states during this time in order to further their influence and finding new financial sources in some families who can expend the clan's necromantic knowledge, like the Pisanab that were recruited during the 17th century. During the 2 world wars, the plans of Augustus Giovanni were set back because the 2 maelstroms damaged the infrastructure of the Shadowlands and cost them many of their wraith servants. Switch to the Hacata.
Okay.
Like I said, 3 separate histories, but you can kind of understand how these are all like...
It's basically clans devouring the clan that came before them.
Yeah. The brief history of Clan Hacata is one of necessity as first principle. The Second Inquisition was one associating factor, taking a heavy toll on Clan Giovanni in North America and forcing much of the clan organization there to regroup back in Italy. Another factor was the promise of 1528 was rumored to be coming to an end soon after an unspecified 500-year time limit.
Didn't know it had a deadline on it.
Yeah. 2 other significant events occurred around at the same time. First, the death or disappearance of Augustus Giovanni, founder and patriarch of the Giovanni, and a devastating assault by the Harbinger of Skulls on the clan's holdings in Venice.
The Harbinger of Skulls?
Harbingers of Skulls. If you remember, that's what the Cappadocians called themselves.
Oh.
So these are the last holdouts of the Cappadocians.
They're just like hitting them when they're down.
Yeah.
That's good.
Undertaken with the assistance of some younger members of the Giovanni. Between the damage of the Harbinger's attack and the maelstrom of wraiths unleashed by Augustus's undoing, the Giovanni called for negotiations at a conference that became known as the Family Reunion.
It's funny because I get the feeling like all this bad stuff's happening to them, but they're just like, no, this is our idea. We're gonna let you guys let us back in.
This was the plan all along.
Yeah. No, we're not hurting for nothing. No. Wraiths? What wraiths?
This is pretty cool. Some of these. The Harbingers, I guess they didn't really say what they agreed to. So basically they called for negotiations at conference. The Harbingers agreed, and not only did they show up, but also the Samiti, the clan from Baron's Samiti, the clan from Louisiana.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the voodoo people.
Ooh, that's interesting.
And any remaining Cappadocians, the Lamia, and even a handful of Nagaraja seeking refuge from a catastrophe, which are, I think, another Indian shoot. The parties negotiated an end to hostilities, and the clan known as Hacata soon came into fruition. After the formation of the Hacata, many sects are in worrying concern about the newly established clan of death in the spreading woodworks. Most notably, the Camarilla, with the promise of 1528 being something the inner circle are at unease with their chances very low to gain some control over. Several, even many, wanting the clan to dissolve in order to lessen the threatening potential. So, who are the Hacata? Well, basically, they're composed of 10 main bloodlines.
Jeez.
La Familia Giovanni, or Clan Giovanni as has been known until recent nights, still largely occupies the overall leadership role in Hacata. Even without Augustus Giovanni as an anchoring influence. They do not normally identify themselves to clan outsiders as Hacata. La Familia also includes other satellite families such as Della Pasaglias and the Gilbertus, who have not earned their own individual bloodline status to date. So the cool thing about the Hacata is basically, depending on the bloodline you pick, your disciplines can change.
Oh, okay.
So the Giovanni basically have Dominate, Fortitude, and Oblivion. Ooh, so they share that with the Lasombra.
Oh, yeah.
Shadow magic. That's why we were going through Oblivion. A lot of it dealt with the dead, because that was the Giovanni's part of it. The Harbingers of Assur, the aggregate remains of Clan Cappadocia, are both the mainline clan and the Harbinger of Skulls. Oh, yeah, I guess they don't get any different abilities.
Nothing special. Just a cool name.
Yeah, I guess they have the same. Nason San-An, the Nation of Blood, the new face of the Samiti bloodline, they get the optionals of Fortitude, Obfuscate, and Oblivion. So super tough, can't see them, control shadows.
Mm-hmm.
The Gorgons, the surviving remnants of the Lamia, the Cappadocian bloodline of devout Bahari faith from whom the curse of the painful kiss originates. So we'll get that. It's one of the clan's bane, is their painful kiss. Optional discipline spread, Fortitude, Potence, Oblivion.
Hard to... Tough, strong...
Shadows.
Yeah.
Or just dead. Like,
yeah.
They're really death knights. I mean, at that point, they're just like... The Flesh Eaters, a group of Najera who show up during the family reunion seeking refuge from a catastrophe. Optional discipline spread, Auspex, Dominate, and Oblivion.
Man, those are some combinations.
Get this one. You want really exotic. The Bankers of Dunsern. A cannibalistic baking family from Scotland. Once a branch of Clan Giovanni, now considered a bloodline in their own right. Optional discipline spread, Dominate, Fortitude, Oblivion. So they're basically like, we're Venture, but instead of that whole, like, people like looking at us stuff, we get shadows.
Yeah.
Shadow magic.
Yeah. Man.
The children Tenochtitlan, the Giovanni allies Pisanab, once driven to the brink of extinction by the Harbinger of Skulls. They have Dominate, Fortitude, and Oblivion. The criminal Puttanesca, a Sicilian crime family formerly attached to Giovanni. Same. The Little Siblings are the Rossellini, once a rival necromantic family, now attached to the Giovanni. They are known for their cruel treatment and exploitation of wraiths. The Grudge Masters are the Milners, a minor Giovanni family with many connections to organized crime. Dominate, Fortitude, Oblivion. So yeah, so basically a lot of them are like families that the Giovanni basically either took over or made some sort of tie where they were like now in control of them. Because the Giovanni clearly just like controlled Italy for a very long time.
It's like there's other powerful families, but they all just kind of fell in line.
Yeah. So their nicknames, the Clan of Death, Necromancers, Grave Robbers, the Family, Stiffs, Corpses, Devil Kindred, and Lazarines. Yeah. The whole Lazarus connection.
Yeah.
Base disciplines of the Hacata are Auspex, Fortitude, and Oblivion. So it's kind of cool. You can see beyond the veil. You can basically create horrible monster undead creatures, and you're really super hard to kill.
Yeah.
What could a necromancer want?
I mean, it really kind of lends itself towards the undead. See the unseen, difficult because it's already dead, and it controls cares of the night.
You stab me. Oh, what will ever I do? Can I add your body to my army? They hunger.
Thursday's Hawaiian shirt.
Bunch of skeletons like rattling. Hey, we give out margaritas. So, as a clan, what are their banes? Well, this is where we get into the painful kiss. So due to mysterious changes in the blood, many Hacata no longer have their old curses, because they did have separate bloodlines. The Samiti are no longer rotting corpses. The Nagaraja are no longer require the sustenance of flesh, and the Cappadocian Harbingers of Skulls no longer have their corpse-like complexion. Instead, now they all share the same clan bane, an excruciatingly painful kiss. So this has been the kind of Giovanni thing where, like, basically they can't just feed quietly. Instead of basically, creating a sense of bliss in whoever the victim is, like, it is painful all the way through and through, leading to most of the time to, but I mean, it kind of makes sense because it's like, hey, well, why are you going to waste this mortal?
Right.
You can use their soul, you can use their body, you got to use all the pieces, right?
It's just another battery to add in the pile.
Their compulsion is morbidity, a sense of morbid curiosity. The Hacata's blood urges them to study the individuals around them for signs of illness, frailty, or impending death.
Well, this one looks like they're about ready.
Until they have either predicted a death or solved the cause of a local one, the vampire suffers a 3-dice penalty to other rolls. Their conclusions do not need to be absolutely correct, but they should stay within the boundaries of the possible.
Someone here is going to die. Damn it! Now I got to find out.
How did this one go? So yeah, the Giovanni were basically they're one of the original 13 clans, the Cappadocians are. But the Giovanni was kind of like the Ravnos, where basically this was not necessarily like a clan of antagonists, but this was another like flavor out there of like they were all these kind of always in a lot of the stories like these weird rich cult society people that you would kind of wander into, and the camera all like, oh, don't go to the mansion up in the hills. I don't need to deal with that dude and his crazy 3 kids. We don't know. Okay, now I got to talk to the Giovanni again.
Great.
And now they've kind of brought them into a rebranding to where now they have a little more kind of like they basically like kind of collected a lot of loose ties, put them together, and created the Hacata, or basically the Clan of Death.
I kind of feel like if the Addams family were vampires.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like the Addams family is like the Sunday morning version of the Giovanni. Just like, oh, this is all fun. And like, you know, haha, we're whimsical. Or really like, you know, there's probably some darker stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, you can see Wednesday Addams as a Giovanni principle.
Totally.
Yeah. So I think they're a fun... I think they kind of serve the purpose that we kind of laid out for them, where they're a fun little sprinkle on the top of things. Like, I don't think the Giovanni are going to feature main in many campaigns, unless you specifically are like, we're playing a Giovanni family in a city with a bunch of vampires.
I can see that.
That would be kind of cool. Yeah. But I think most of the time it's basically...
That's the one where like everybody creates their character. They don't quite tell the DM that it's the Addams family.
You're like, oh, I'm going to make this kind of like charming, kind of crazy, you know, guy. I think he had like really rich parents and they just never really understood him. And, oh yeah, he's obsessed with so-and-so's character.
Right.
That'd be kind of cool. It'd be better, I think, with different clans, but like, so that would be kind of cool. Like the Giovanni marrying in with the La Sombra.
Right.
You know, Morticia's La Sombra. She's like, oh, look how beautiful these flowers are. I need to trim them. Snip, you know.
I almost feel like she'd be good as a Toreador.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
Because then you have, you know, Gomez's infatuation with her.
Yeah, that kind of does make sense. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, you got Lurch. Lurch is Nosferatu. That makes perfect sense.
I feel like Gomez would be a Bruja.
He's definitely passionate. Yeah. Something like, yeah, maybe, definitely. Or just straight up Malkavian. He doesn't know it. You know what?
I feel like Fester would be Malkavian.
Oh, yeah. No, that does work a lot better. Yeah, and then, of course, you have a cousin It.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just like some weird gangrel thing that came out of nowhere, out of the woods, you know?
Gangrel thing?
Well, he's like always just hair, isn't he?
Right, yeah, he's just hair. Yeah.
Like, he's stuck mid-shape change. He was like, I was going for a bear, but I only got halfway there.
Oh, God.
He's like, I'll fix it in a couple 100 years.
It's like Wednesday I can see as a Giovanni.
Oh, yeah. She had hair, like, she got her mother's.
Yeah, yeah.
She got the family stuff dead on.
Pugsley, I'm not sure. You think, like, from the movies and, you know, the TV show, I watched some of it, but, like, I'm just happy to be here again. That's the kind of feel I get from Pugsley.
He's like a caitiff.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, he would be a caitiff.
He's like, I just didn't inherit anything from anyone.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm just glad I'm here.
This is great. That would be really cool. Like, the Addams family could be like a really cool dark twist on like if these eccentric people had a kid and that kid went and contacted the Giovanni and like the whole thing was like, you're going to embrace my entire family. And then they came back and they found all the members embraced by different families. And you're like, how did you find these other people? And like, that's Pugsley just shows up. He's like, I'm here. I'm helping. And you're like, who got you? What?
I don't know.
Like, there was a strange man. I haven't seen him before. Like, uh-oh.
You bit me and then he left.
Like, oh no, this is weird. That'd be cool. Yeah, I don't know. The Giovanni are weird because they're both a very interesting thing for like one note.
Yeah.
Like it's a really crazy session or two when you introduce them and then they explore them. But then once you find out, you're like you go into a new city and you're just like, oh, there's a mysterious manor owned by some family of kind of crazy. Yeah, they're Giovanni.
Yeah.
Like, they're
pretty obvious.
You know, and then of course, you know, if you're a savvy vampire and someone ends up like overturning the graveyard, you're probably like, I'm going to go talk to those Giovanni.
Like they'd live next to the graveyard.
They're just like, we're caretakers of the graveyard. You're like, no.
We only do the burials at night.
But yeah, I think so. That kind of brings us up to that's the rounding out of the 13 clans.
I mean, there's a bunch of bloodlines in between, but
and we'll go further into some stuff to keep
a lot
this
of
podcast going.
A lot of those are going to be like 2 or 3 of them at a time. There's not a whole lot of substance between a lot of them.
Yeah, especially as you guys have seen on these last 2, we've kind of chewed through the meat pretty quickly and kind of run out. But like, it just in a retrospect, we've kind of done a lot of legwork here with you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope you guys are still having a good time listening. We really appreciate those who know us, and we're really astonished by those who don't know us for listening in and patronizing us.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did the full 13. I think we're going to maybe have another session where we do something a little different as a refresher, but then we'll get back onto some of the kind of more obscure stuff. And then we're going to kind of go through the last bits that we have talking about Vampire. It's been this is episode 21.
Man.
Yeah, and so, pretty soon we're going to wrap up a season of Vampire. And the question that we have to keep asking ourselves is, do you finally want to play Vampire, people?
I want to play Vampire. I've wanted to play Vampire for a couple of years now. We've been stuck in D&D mode.
It's very fun. And now I think that we can point people towards this lovely collection of podcasts and be like, look, just listen to the podcast when you have the time. And this will kind of give you the crude take to understand the basics of this stuff. I mean,
yeah, a lot of what we said is probably wrong.
No,
I hope you all realize that.
And we do go on tangents where we like to talk about Highlander.
Yes.
And different sodas and stuff. And
we're not good at regional names.
No. Good God.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anybody who feels like we've insulted them.
But just bear in mind, we understand how bad we are.
Yeah, we do. We do. You can call us out. We agree.
We encourage it. Well, yeah, I guess unless there's anything you got to say for that, I think we
know. In it.